Hey guys, how's it going? Uh, welcome. Steve, let me know. I just uploaded the hopefully a better quality image. So I think it's hopefully better. I don't know what the heck happened with that, but thanks for pointing that out. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me okay. What's up, Prodigal? Good to have you back. Steve, happy Friday. It's good to see you guys. So this is our third time doing a live stream. So third time's a charm. Last week was a bit of a disaster. Um, okay, sounds good. Thanks, Prodigal. Actually, was it 2 weeks ago we did a live stream and it was a bit of a train wreck. My internet kept cutting out. The good news is this week it's just me at home. My girlfriend's not here. She's not on any Zoom calls. So hopefully we won't have any bandwidth issues and hopefully I will not cut out on you guys like last time. But today I thought we would just do more or less just like a chill Q&A. I thought we could dig into the YouTube studio. And if you guys have any questions as it relates to monetization, what realistic YouTube earnings might look like for just a random mid-40s guy on the internet trying to do this YouTube thing, I'm happy to dig in. Hey, Eugene, and what's up? Follow the sun. Hey, Robin. Okay, good to meet you. Thanks for jumping on. Marcus, Justin. Thank you. Yeah, it was a disaster, but we had some fun. So I'm gonna try my best to actually move the chat into you guys. I got an Elgato prompter for anyone who's in the content creation world. You may know what that is. So I'm experimenting with it and trying to figure out if I can actually turn my loft area into like a legitimate YouTube studio. So I'm going to drag in the chat. I think I can do this into the prompter so that I'm looking at the chat and I'm actually like looking at you guys, so it's not awkward. So yeah, so the Elgato prompter is a teleprompter. It's basically you have a mirror and you have a display and you plug it in and you put in your script into the prompter and then it'll it'll show you the text and you can read through it in real time. So it's good for people who want to script their videos word for word and they want to be able to deliver on that without rambling too much like I tend to do. So I'm going to give that a shot to see if I can improve my writing skills and be more effective and more succinct in my videos. But it's also cool for doing live streams. It's actually really cool for doing video conferencing calls too, because you can put the view of your viewers, or in this case, the chat, into the prompter. And so I'm looking right through the prompter right now. So it kind of looks like I'm looking at you guys, but I can also see the chat without having to move my head. So it's actually a really cool way of staying engaged with the audience. So this is all like brand new technology for me. I'm kind of just feeling it out as we go here. I'm using my iPhone 15, which is mounted behind the prompter. So that's what's picking me up on camera. And then of course I've got my Shure mic, and that's basically the setup. I don't have any streaming software right now. That will probably be at some point down the road. So yeah, hopefully the image is coming through good. I might have to move the chat because it's a little hard for me to read. Yeah, no worries. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. I really wanted this to be kind of like an informal Q&A today. So let me actually share my screen. And you'll have to bear with me. I'm a little slow with the technology. Okay, let me know if you can see that. Yeah, Steve, how do you like your Stream Deck? Because I just ordered one because I want to map certain controls for the prompter onto the Stream Deck so that I can move through my script more quickly. Because you guys probably know, like using a teleprompter is kind of awkward. It's not something that I think is intuitive for a lot of people. Even if you are doing your own writing, which I highly recommend, I don't think you should like read a script that ChatGPT wrote because it will just not sound like you. But even in your own tone and the way you normally speak, sometimes it's like hard to just adapt to the way the teleprompter operates. But I think it's just one of those things you kind of have to just adapt to it and experiment and figure out what your pace and your cadence is. So, um, thumbs up if you can see my screen. I'm sharing my YouTube studio, and I'm happy to take any questions that you guys have as it relates to monetization, my journey, how much money I've made on YouTube, kind of what my thought process is on trying to start a business and make some money with this thing. I'm obviously doing it full time. If you guys didn't already know, I quit my 9 to 5 back in November. I'd been working for the same company for about almost 20 years, and I love the company. It was Verizon, for those of you in the US, a large national cellular provider. And it's pretty much the only company I worked for my whole adult career. And it was a great company to work for. I loved all the people there, and I really liked my last job. But I'm at 45 years old at this point, and I thought, hey, I need to do something a little bit different. I was kind of getting an itch to, thanks, I appreciate that. I was kind of getting an itch to, I don't know, just like do something a little bit different and creative, and like kind of just work for myself and be my own boss and work on my own schedule and all that fun stuff. And of course, like build something from the ground up. So YouTube's obviously very, very hard. I don't recommend anybody to quit their day job before making probably as much as you're making in your day job from YouTube. If that's your goal, like if that's your objective to do this thing full time, that's amazing. But just be mindful that it can take many, many years. But for me, I was in a unique situation where I could leave my company and, not have to worry so much about having a regular paycheck come in. Although, several months later, I am very much feeling the impact of not having a regular paycheck. So just, food for thought there. But I thought, hey, mid 40s, I got the energy, I have the lifestyle. This is a great time to take a chance and gamble on myself and just try to see if I can make something work. And if I don't, if I suck, if I fail, no big deal. I can always go back to corporate America and just retire behind a cubicle, which doesn't sound great, but for some people, it's like, I think the reassurance, right? Like the consistency is comforting, and I am definitely missing that right now. But all then to say, I'm loving this journey. So if you guys have any thoughts or questions, let me know if I've missed any questions in the chat here. Um, yeah. All right. So Prodigal puts me on the spot. Hardware, software spend year to date. Okay, that's tough because I actually have this tabulated from like, gosh, I want to say I think January. So like I'm maybe like I'm 6 weeks behind. So let me show you. Here's my total spend. Hopefully you can see this. Prodigal, give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see this. It might be a little bit small. Let me zoom in a little bit. But this is my total spend as of late January. And I've tried my best to include all of the software subscriptions. And keep in mind, my journey started really back in like, I would say last year in the April, May timeframe. This is when I started really exploring YouTube and trying to figure out, does this thing even make sense? So of course you're like, signing up for subscriptions for things like vidIQ and for ChatGPT. But then in November, things sort of exploded for me from a cost perspective because I registered an LLC, and I didn't necessarily need to. I think it was a little premature to do it at that point because back then I only had around 1,000 subscribers on my channel, and I think obviously I wasn't monetized yet through AdSense, and I had like one or two coaching clients that had booked paid sessions with me, and so I took that as an indication that, hey, this is something I can do. Let me let me just hit gas pedal to the floor, right? And I ended up registering an LLC, and that's kind of expensive. Um, those things kind of add up, especially if you do it through like a platform like LegalZoom. And then once you register a domain and start to build a website, you have all of these other subscriptions. Once you get an email address, and you start building out your business a little bit more, the things start to add up. So I've got a lot of monthly subscriptions at this point. A lot of these I've tried for like a month or two, and then I would turn them off. But all that to say, in addition to the business side of things, there's like AI tools. There are other tools to learn, like going through courses, things like Video Ranking Academy. I did early on back in July of last year. I did a camera confidence boot camp that I really, really loved. And it was actually pretty inexpensive. It was like $67. I got invited to this Facebook group, and they give you these like daily exercises to put yourself on camera. And then you post it to the Facebook group, and the other students in there get to watch it and give you feedback. So I thought that was really cool. It's like a kind of a good way to get out of your shell a little bit. And it just got me uncomfortable, which I think was a good kickstart for me to actually record my first video. So I think there's a lot to be said about self-development and actually exploring some of the courses that are out there, going through some of the programs. If you can complete some of these programs, there's some psychological benefits there because one, you're investing money into the program, so you have skin in the game. And then two, you're like taking action and you're actually trying to implement the things that you're learning. And then the fact that you paid money, you complete the program, and you're putting those things into action tends to build confidence, which I think is so important when starting a YouTube channel, because a lot of times we start this whole thing with imposter syndrome. We're just awkward and weird on camera. But the more you put into yourself from a development perspective, I think the more confidence and courage you build over time. So I'm a huge advocate of self-development. You hear a lot of the gurus say like the best investment you can make with YouTube is investing in yourself. And I think I think there's a lot of truth to that. So Eugene, you posted a video yesterday, you got 20 views so far, 25 impressions. That's pretty good. No, that has never happened to me. If you get 25 impressions and 20 views, that's really good click through. But yeah, the number of impressions, that's really, really low. So without looking at the video, I couldn't really give you any feedback or advice. But is that your first video? I'm curious if that's your first video. If it's not, then I think one, we might need to have a conversation around how dialed in are you with your target viewer and your niche and what questions you're trying to solve. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're like an educational style channel like I am, then it really, really helps to, when you're recording your video, to actually articulate, hey, this video is for newer folks who want to get better at X, Y, or Z. Because the more you can say that in your videos, the better the YouTube algorithm will understand who your video is for, and that's going to lead to more impressions. So, but let me know if that's your first video, and let me know what your content style is or what your niche is, because that's a very interesting. So it's been a full day, and you only have 25 impressions. Yeah, I have to give it a little bit more time and see what happens. So as Justin's asking around the subscriptions, are there any that you might not pay for? Okay, so yeah, great question. I tried Google One, which is like, I guess it's their AI platform, kind of like ChatGPT, where you can get Gemini and some of the other tools. I think that was like $10 a month. I did it for 2 months, and I'm really just settled on ChatGPT at this point, so I stopped using that. These other ones, like the business ones, like QuickBooks, Rocket Money. I like Rocket Money because it's just a really clean way of looking at your whole financial snapshot, personal and business, and it's like $6 a month at the cheapest, so it's no big deal. Calendly is cool. It's low cost, but it really helps with my booking. I might end up ditching Calendly and just using the Wix booking platform, and that might save me a little bit since I'm already paying for Wix. The courses that I took early on, I think were helpful and beneficial. So I would encourage people to keep looking at different courses and evaluating, even if they're like small little $27 ebooks. Some of them actually can have a pretty big impact. Loom is cool. I don't pay for that right now, but I probably will start paying again because in my school community that I host, a lot of questions are sometimes better answered with a short Loom video. And with the free Loom, you only get a 5-minute duration to record. And sometimes the explanations can take longer. And then I think you get capped out at 25 videos. So I may end up repaying for Loom so that I can do more video correspondence with my audience there. 11 Labs is it's an AI, like you can give it a transcript and it'll actually read it to you in AI, like, just AI voice, in other words. I didn't like it. It seemed really expensive and it didn't really sound all that great. Although I know there's a lot of faceless channels out there that actually use 11 Labs for their voiceovers. Veed, gosh, I don't even remember this one. vidIQ, I still pay for vidIQ. I think there's a lot of value in vidIQ, especially as it relates to like the keyword research tool. There are title recommendation tools in there. There's like a competitor analysis tool. There's the obviously the outlier scores. Now, some of this stuff you can get with the free version of vidIQ, but some of it you need to have the paid version as well, where you can get like an unlimited amount of title recommendations, things like that. So I think vidIQ is a good investment. If you're paying like more than $15 a month for it, maybe not. But I was only paying like $9.50, and then I canceled, and then I got like an email saying, "Hey, if you re-sign up, it'll be $7." So I ended up re-signing up with vidIQ for about $7. So yeah, Adobe, that's their like creative cloud suite. It's more like AI image generation and some editing tools. I use Canva, so I no longer need that. CapCut, I've used that for all of my videos for editing. So CapCut's amazing. Their pricing is janky. I don't know if you guys who use CapCut feel the same way, but let me let me know in the chat if you're like kind of scratching your head around their pricing model. They have the app, they have the desktop app, and they have the web browser. And it's like everywhere you go, you get different pricing options. Some of them are annual, some of them are monthly, and then they're just like all over the place. I think right now I have a 12-month plan where it's like I paid up front for $90. And I think that's actually a pretty good deal for CapCut. Of course, you can do the free version, but you don't get all the bells and whistles. Like there's some transitions, there's probably some text animations and things like that that you wouldn't get. I think like the background remover you wouldn't get either. Maybe some of the AI or captioning you don't get. But I think it's pretty low cost for what you get. This was the Camera Confidence Bootcamp. Highly recommend if anyone is struggling with camera confidence and you're interested in a boot camp that's going to make you uncomfortable. Just send me a message later on and I'll redirect you to those guys. Canva is amazing. I use that for all my thumbnails. Use it for, gosh, lead magnets. And I'm actually going to post a video today about how I'm using Canva for my brand kit, which if you guys don't know, Canva can house a brand kit for you that lets you apply your brand colors and your brand fonts and your brand voice to any documents that you're working on in Canva with just a few clicks. So it's actually a really good way of keeping all of your stuff consistent across the board. X, I don't use X anymore, but I did sign up for an X Premium like several months ago before I canceled all my social media. But I was on X quite a bit, and I was using Grok for the AI features. But I sort of stopped using X and Threads and other, I guess what you'd consider short form social content, just because it was a time suck. So I have shiny object syndrome, and I'm always like, if I get a notification over here, I need to attend to it. If I get an email over here, I need to attend to it. So I was doing my best to just block out all the distractions so I can focus on the core work of actually making videos. So anyways, long story short, I ended up paying for X, but then I stopped using it pretty quickly after. TubeBuddy, super expensive compared to vidIQ, but there's one feature in TubeBuddy that I absolutely love that I can't find anywhere else. If you need to make changes to your video descriptions in bulk, there's a bulk video description changer. Now, I know you can do that in the YouTube Studio, but the YouTube Studio version of it changes it like across the board, the entire description, which I don't want to do. I just want to change small parts of my description. So for example, if I have a link to one lead magnet and I want to update it to a link to a newer lead magnet, and I just want to adjust that small part of text, I can go in there, highlight all of my videos, and do a lookup and replace. So I can look up the old lead magnet link and replace it with the new lead magnet link, and it'll do it. It'll automate the whole thing for you, because otherwise you got to go into each video separately and change the description, and that is a huge pain in the you know what. So I paid for that, and there's a couple other things that TubeBuddy can do too, but I haven't really dug into it too much. ChatGPT, of course, I'm paying $20 a month for the Plus plan. Basically it's my business partner, and it's my YouTube assistant. I use it for pretty much everything. And if you guys haven't already seen, they just released 4.5, and they have a deep research option in 4.0. They have projects, they have tasks. So it's a really clean way if you're like me and you want to keep everything organized, all of your content creation, all of your business efforts, and you want to have something that you can ideate with back and forth that has a memory that understands you and your context. ChatGPT is amazing for that, and it's just getting better. So ScreenFlow, This is a screen recording tool. So if you guys watched any of my tutorials where I'm showing my YouTube Studio or I'm showing something in CapCut or Canva, I use ScreenFlow to capture that video of my screen. And it's actually kind of pricey for what you get. There's a lot of features to it, but I really only use it for the screen sharing or for like the screen capture portion of it. And I guess what I do like about it is that when you export the video, it's really nice, good quality, and of course you can add some embellishments to the cursor so that the viewer can more easily track where you're pointing. So it'll do like this kind of shadow effect and a little red radar effect as well, so that when people are following along in the tutorial, they know exactly where to click. Wix and LegalZoom, those are both there for business purposes. And then I don't know if anyone out there knows about Video Ranking Academy through Think Media. I definitely signed up at a good time because I think it's normally like $1,000. I got it at 697, and I'm still going through it. There is just so much content in there, and some of it's kind of old, so like just be careful. But there's some good stuff nonetheless. I think it's very applicable, even though it's a few years old at this point. But probably the most bang for your buck that you're going to get with a course. And if you're just starting fresh, if you're brand new, if you need a little kick in the ass, if you need some inspiration and motivation, Sean and team, they do an amazing job of not just like educating you on how things work, but it helps to conceptualize mindset too. I think is really important. It'll help you kind of build some confidence, and then know that if you're just starting out and you're overthinking and you need like just like I don't know, a boost of confidence, like they'll help you with that, because there's a whole camera confidence course in there too, which I found very valuable. Um, and then YouTube coaching. So I have my own coach. You guys probably know her. Her name is Alexa. I signed up early on when she first started offering her coaching service. I think her fees have gone up quite a bit since then. So I feel lucky that I've got locked in. But here's what I'll say about coaching. If anyone's considering coaching, I think it just depends on your goals and your objectives. If you like doing YouTube because you think it's fun and you want to be creative and you want to make things, um, and you don't have really any like desire ambition to make it a career or like make a bunch of money from it, like that's cool. Go at your own pace, do what feels right, make the content on your own schedule, on your own pace. But I just would say don't expect a ton of growth unless you're like just phenomenal out of the gate. Now, if you want to grow your channel quickly, if you want to learn more quickly, I highly encourage you guys, number one, like find a community first, people that you can network with, a peer group. You can find that on school. You can find that on Facebook. I literally just made a video about this. Kind of hot on this topic right now, as you can probably tell. But it's really good to have people in your orbit that you can talk YouTube to, because chances are your friends and family, they don't give a crap. Or even if they do, they don't know what it's like to do YouTube. So they can't really give you the advice or be a sounding board for you that you'd want. So you really need to find other YouTube friends. Now, beyond that, if you want to accelerate further, you need to find somebody, preferably in your niche or an adjacent niche, that has already gone through what you are now going through. So that could be a coach or a mentor, or you can just do some like consulting. And some people will do one-on-one like I do right now. I do one-on-one coaching. Other groups will do more like group coaching. So like Nolan Molt, for example, if you guys know him, he's former Think Media. He has a program where he does one-on-one coaching. That's like his high ticket offer. But then he's got like a mid-ticket offer where there's no one-on-ones, but you get to be part of his school community. And then twice weekly, they do group coaching. So it's a really good way to get access to him as the principal, but also to learn from other people. And then you get to ask your questions and get good feedback as well. So there's just so much benefit, I think, to finding a mentor, finding a peer group, and finding a community that can help support you in this effort. And then finally, the last few things here are just hardware related. So like I bought a MacBook last year, even before I was considering doing the YouTube thing. So because my old one was like, I don't know, 9 years old at that point. And then of course I bought like microphones and other pieces of hardware to just tinker with and see if I can make them useful. Part of part of my channel is to educate my audience on things to use to help facilitate YouTube videos. So I think it's incumbent upon me to learn some of these things. So like the prompter, for example, having a good microphone, having a good wireless microphone, different camera options, different lighting options. So part of my experience is going to have to be in some ways like acquiring some of this stuff, testing it out, giving my feedback on it. Some cases I'll keep it, other cases I might give it back. But all that to say, hardware was a big chunk of my total. So right now I'm somewhere around 14, $15,000 in total expenses, and I've recouped about 2,000 back. So, but that's okay because I'm of the mindset that you're going to be in the red for the first year, potentially 2 years. Like I don't expect to make a bunch of money in year one. I'm really here to learn and grow and try and help as many people and figure out what my differentiation is and figure out how I can tackle this crowded YouTube growth niche in a more meaningful and differentiated way. So that's kind of what I'm working through right now. But yeah, hopefully, Prodigal, that was a very long winded answer to your question. I hope this is helpful for you to see. If you have any follow up questions, let me know. And yeah, no worries. I'm all about transparency. I think it's important. Um, I think it's important for people to see like what it looks like to try and grow a YouTube channel because a lot of the gurus, I think they do press on the fact that it's hard and challenging, but I think it's said so often that people just become numb to it. I think what might help illuminate the point better is showing realistic earnings and showing realistic costs and then showing realistic growth on a channel. So like when you look at my growth over the last several months, starting back in July all the way through February, you can kind of see the ebbs and flows of the number of views you get each month, how much watch time, how my click through rate fluctuates, the number of subscribers I'm getting, and then of course like the revenue as it starts to come in. So I feel in some ways lucky and fortunate that my channel has grown the way it has because I know not everyone can get monetized in 6 months. But there are other people like Alexa, for example, Mike Bayer, who I'm sure you guys know, who get monetized much more quickly. And even then, and nothing against them at all. I think they're amazing people. Even then, sometimes seeing their progress and their growth, it makes it seem like everybody can do it. I don't know that that's the case. I think for a lot of people, it takes a lot longer. And so it's just one of those things you have to really stick with. So, anyways, that's again my soapbox. So, yeah, Jonesing mentioned started reaching out to other YouTubers. Yeah, I think that's amazing, right? That's something sometimes it's hard to connect because YouTube isn't the best platform for like you can't DM on YouTube like you can on Instagram or Facebook or even school, for example. So you kind of have to like poke around in the comments, give people some kudos and inspiration, maybe find a school community or elsewhere to chit chat with people and get to know them. And I'll say, Steve in the chat here from Wilmer Woodworks. Um, I don't know, Steve, refresh my memory. We connected through the YouTube comments early on in my YouTube journey. And then we both found each other on Alexa's school community. And then we started DMing. And then from there, we started connecting over Google Meet. And then we would, talk shop and figure out what was working and what was great and like how things were going. So I would encourage anyone out there who is new to YouTube, who has not made any YouTube friends, try to do so. And use the comments as a way to get started and find people in school communities as another way to get started too. Um, yeah, Prodigal, the computer is kind of a necessary cost. But yeah, I mean, honestly, last year for my taxes, all of the stuff that I showed you guys just now that I incurred in 2024, that was a business write-off. So I included the computer in that. So that really helped. That really helped out on my income taxes. All right, so Cheryl, 47 subs. Cheryl, I don't know if I'm understanding the question. I'm new and 47 subs and as many as 45 likes on a video. I just had a short 15-second hit over 500 likes. I don't know what to make of it. Stats wise, it's a good question. I don't do shorts, so I don't really know what an appropriate amount of views or likes are for a short. So I have a different strategy when it comes to monetization. I don't know that spending a lot of time with shorts early on is the best approach. This is my personal hot take. Feel free to disagree. I know some of you guys out there do shorts, and that's cool. But I'm a strong proponent of trying to build your audience and trying to get monetized through long form videos first. And then once you hit that monetization threshold, then you can start to branch out and do shorts. But shorts viewers don't always translate into long form viewers, and long form viewers are the ones that make you money through AdSense, and they're the ones that are converting into actual sales of things that you're trying to sell. So that's just my personal take. And I also feel like it depends on your niche and your audience. So my demographic on YouTube are older folks, and older folks don't tend to watch shorts. So if I were to make a bunch of shorts, it might hit a bunch of younger people, but they're not ultimately who I'm trying to help at the end of the day. So it would actually be doing me a disservice to try and do shorts and tackle that younger generation, those, I don't know, what is it, Gen Y, like the millennials and younger, because they're not my core audience, and that's not who I want to convert necessarily into a paid customer. So, yeah, that's my short answer to that question. And I hopefully haven't missed. Oh, Prodigal, by the way, thank you. I appreciate your support, man. It's always great to see you here in the chat, and for being such an advocate for what we're doing. So, um, I'm just looking back to see if I have any questions that I've missed. Yep, I agree, Steve. Reaching out. And that's the thing too. Like a lot of folks, I think, on YouTube are, and maybe you agree or disagree with this, are kind of introverted. I feel like that's me. So in a real world environment, I would be very, very hard pressed to just walk up to somebody and start chatting with them. Even if we shared a similar hobby or passion for something, I would still be too shy or reluctant to do it. But on the internet and on YouTube, we can all sort of, in some ways, this is both a good thing and a bad thing, right? We can hide behind our keyboards, and we don't need to do real time communication. So we can, we can just meet and mingle through comments on videos or through DMs or posts on different social platforms. And it's a really low friction, low pressure way for introverts to start to build connections with people and maybe get to know people in a low pressure environment. And then from there, if it makes sense and you feel inclined to, you can incorporate things like a Zoom or a Google Meet into that environment. So, um, so Eugene, that was your sixth video. Your channel is all about calisthenics and fitness. Video is part of your niche, but it's different from my other ones. What were your other videos about? So that's the thing. So one thing to note too, you guys, if you have, let's just say you've got like 5 videos that are all relatively closely tied together in terms of topics. Um, and then on your sixth video, you branch out and do something completely different, for example, then you're probably going to find that you're going to get far fewer impressions and far fewer views because the algorithm might be unsure who to serve that video to, or there might not really be an audience quite yet for that video. So, but it also depends. If the video is great, then, the user engagement on that video might propel the algorithm to serve it to more people. But if you're starting out and your videos aren't super great, which is totally fine and totally expected, then you might be doing yourself a disservice to create videos on vastly different topics in quick succession. So I think one of the rules of thumb that I heard is early on, like use your first 20 videos as really a way to experiment with trying to find your flow and your rhythm on camera, trying to figure out what formats work best for you, and then also to like hear more from your viewers. But it's a good idea to group video ideas together. So say for example, you're going to do 20 videos and you're exploring like three to five different ideas in total. I would say take one idea, make 3 videos out of it, post them in succession, and then move on to that second idea, make 3 or 4 videos about it, post them in succession, and then move on to your third idea, right? Don't kind of intersprinkle them, if that makes sense, because that might throw off your viewership. It might throw off the algorithm. And that way, if you keep things kind of bundled together, it'll give the algorithm more time to figure out who these might be better served to. And that might lead to more impressions and more views at the end of the day. Hopefully I explained that okay. All right. The homework dad says, how do you come up with video topic ideas? Do you use the Trends tab in YouTube Studio or Google Trends? I have used, um, I it's a great question. I don't know that I fully trust or believe some of the like the vidIQ keyword research tools. I think I know a lot of people test them out and use them, but I haven't seen like a clearly definitive way to make it work. So for me, um, I guess in the first 6 months, I really just said, "Hey, what do I need help with myself? Like, what problems have I encountered creating my YouTube channel, and how have I solved those problems?" And then I'll just teach that. I'll make a video about that. So a lot of my videos have been tutorials on how I'm doing things in CapCut or Canva, or tutorials on things in the YouTube studio, for example, things that I'm learning, or maybe just general tactics and strategy that I've learned. So I've made a lot of videos about that. I'm not necessarily chasing virality. I'm not chasing a ton of views because, in one sense, I think if you are constantly chasing viral videos and just a ton of views, you may end up screwing yourself because you may end up bringing in a lot of people to your channel that really don't belong there. So I'm very like, I have a very narrow idea of who I want to serve with my videos. It's really middle-aged folks like me and older who want to start and grow a YouTube channel, but are just getting stuck in the weeds, whether it's overthinking, whether it's camera confidence, whether it's technical stuff, or like how to stay consistent. Like that's kind of my bread and butter because that is all of the stuff that I just experienced. So I'm really just taking things that I've experienced, making videos out of those. And then every now and then I will create a video sort of like unscripted about my emotional state, or like what it's like to do YouTube, or like I tried YouTube for 6 months. Here's what I've learned, like kind of videos like that. So they're more experiential in nature and they're more authentic and relatable, I think. And so those videos tend to do a little bit better than the tutorial based videos. But I think there's something to be said about looking at Google Trends and doing some keyword research. And I'll just give you an example of a client that I worked with. He is in the like personal finance, like retirement, specifically retirement niche. So he's helping other people better prepare for retirement. And so like that was his umbrella niche. And within that niche, there's a lot of topics to tackle. And initially he started out doing talking about like HSAs and 401ks and like different investment vehicles and like ways to be more frugal with money and doing budgeting. And then he started experimenting with other topics like how to downsize your home so that you can avoid a mortgage. And then he started talking about like, like gardening and like things related to that, that you can like you do that on a budget, but also provide for yourself. And what we found is that people really gravitated towards his downsizing tiny home content. And now he's pivoted completely into tiny home content because that's where his audience is. So basically, he's meeting his audience where they are, and he's finding a ton of engagement, a ton of traction, a ton of views. He's gotten monetized. He's making a good chunk on AdSense now because he leaned in to where his audience told him they want him to make content on. But it was a bit about experimentation. And if you look at other trending topics in the tiny home space or even in Google Trends, like there's a huge uptick in interest in tiny homes or shed conversions. So there's something to be said about doing that research and understanding that, hey, there is growing momentum on these topics. But for me, I don't necessarily feel like I want to chase that kind of virality because I really want to attract a specific type of viewer to my channel. So hopefully that makes sense. And I don't really use the inspiration tab in the YouTube studio. I think it's kind of cool, but I don't know if it's going to give you good quality things. Um, Eugene says, I'm wondering if YouTube doesn't know how to push my videos to other people or if my videos just suck. Could be both, to be honest. If your videos just suck, don't worry, because my videos early on sucked. A lot of people's videos early on sucked. I think it took like Mr. Beast 2 years to reach 1,000 subscribers. So don't worry about your videos sucking. Just keep trying and practicing. They'll get better naturally, organically as you continue to do them and just make refinements. And then in time too, you'll get better at articulating in your videos who your videos are for, and then that will help the algorithm understand who these are designed for. So just keep pushing forward. Don't hyperfixate early on, like within the first 20 videos on the analytics, because the channel's still so new and there's really not a ton of data in there to even analyze. So just in their last video on just starting really helped. Yeah, YouTube does send new creators down the rabbit hole. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. I think I think a lot of the tactics you see from the gurus are valid and relevant, and but only insofar as you have the skills to implement them. And even me doing this now 7 months, I still watch videos from YouTubers who are doing really well, and I'm like, everything they're saying makes perfect sense. I don't know how to implement it. And that's the challenge, right? And there's just so many things to try and tackle early on. And oftentimes we're just taking little nibbles of different elements of the YouTube content creation process. We're taking nibbles at titles, we're taking nibbles at thumbnails, and getting better on camera and writing, and optimizing our video and our lighting. And eventually, like, you have to just do all of it, and a large volume of all of it, I think. And then in time, you start to gain comfort with the whole content creation process. And then you can start to really immerse yourself in deep dive and get better in specific areas. So for me, one of the things I really started to focus on maybe 2 or 3 months ago was titling, because in my niche, and because I understand a little bit about my audience, I don't think they care all that much about flashy over the top thumbnails. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time trying to come up with these really eye catchy thumbnails. I really want to exude trust and credibility. So I want to show up pretty consistently in my thumbnails, but also create a little bit of curiosity. But I think my audience tends to care more about the topic and the title. So if you're in the education space, I would encourage you to think really deeply about the topic and the title, because I think those are probably the two most important things for you. And one of the investments I made, you guys probably saw it over here. So this will be a quick plug, and I promise I'm not sponsored in any way. But Creator Hooks is it's essentially a product. They have a newsletter, and it's free to sign up for the newsletter, but they have a paid product where they have basically a database of high performing videos, and they do some deep analysis on how those videos are titled specifically and what emotional triggers those videos are conveying. And they kind of break down why those videos might be performing well. So I read their newsletter every week when I get it, and I study it, and they'll give like 3 or 4 examples of different videos that are performing really, really well. And I'll look at those titles and I'll say, is there something I can borrow from those titles for my own videos? So earlier the question came up is like, how do you come up with your title? Or sorry, how do you come up with your video topics? So this one right down here, this this video is called "The Hidden Side of YouTube Most Creators Won't Talk About," and I'll show you the thumbnail. Shoot, hold on. I don't know if you can see this very well, but I'll pull it up anyway. So this is the thumbnail. You can kind of see that, right? It's just basically me outside, and I have "This is YouTube" up top. So let me show you where this came from, basically. Sorry, we're going on a little detour here. Oops. Because I think it's kind of interesting. This video right here. So you see this thumbnail? It's just the guy center frame with some looks like construction materials behind him. And it says, "This is China." And this video is doing exceptionally well. It's almost got 10 million views for this guy. And his channel is much, much smaller. But look at his title: "The Hidden Side of China the Media Won't Show You." So I think there's a lot of curiosity being evoked in this title. And then his thumbnail is pretty bare bones. So this example came through in the newsletter. And I was thinking about this title, and I was like, man, can I make a video in my niche that uses the same formatting? And of course, this is what I came up with. This is YouTube. And the title is "The Hidden Side of YouTube Most Creators Won't Talk About." So very, very similar title to the China example. And then this video went on to get over 5,000 views. And keep in mind, my channel, and that's great for me. My channel is like, back then when I posted this, I probably had a little over 2,000 subscribers. So if any one video I post gets more views than I have subscribers, for me, that's a huge win. So I think there's something to be said about studying high performing video titles, depending on your niche, of course. If your niche caters to younger folks, then maybe your thumbnails might be more important. But hopefully that just illustrates for you that it's helpful to study and analyze and borrow ideas from other creators because oftentimes it can help out. So Danya says, definitely agree with this. I've tried flashy titles and they don't do as well as others. Yeah, so educational content's different. And sometimes too, with educational stuff too, again, depending on your niche, um, there's two types of traffic in my view to really target. You can target browse traffic, which is the traffic that's going to watch your video within the first couple of days. So like looking back at hopefully you can see this. This is the views graph. So the first few days of posting, this video got the majority of the views it's ever going to get. And then it flatlines, right? And I call this is a video that's really targeted at browse traffic. But there's other content like evergreen content. You hear Think Media talk about it all the time, where you're creating educational content that has relevance for many, many years. So in that case, you may want to title it something more basic, more like how to set up your YouTube studio in 3 easy steps, or how to avoid burnout with these 4 tips. And that way, when people are searching for how do I avoid burnout, your title matches quite easily to the keyword search that they're doing in Google or on YouTube. So there's also something to be said about having a lot of videos on your channel, if it's relevant, that have this evergreen appeal and they're designed for evergreen traffic. And then that can keep you getting a lot of views in the years to come as you add more and more to your catalog. So yeah, boring titles can work just as well, but I wouldn't expect a ton of views in the first few days. It really would take maybe many, many months or potentially years for that to ramp up. So, yeah, did I miss any questions, you guys? And by the way, thank you for all the engagement so far. This has been great. So let me show you for anyone who's interested. Danya's asking, what do I do to live stream? I'm basically just using the native YouTube live stream platform. I don't have any software quite yet. I haven't gotten that far. So yeah, this is all experimental and just trying to feel it out. I haven't really put much effort and thought into it, but let me know if you guys have any thoughts or feedback, or if there's any software you think I should explore. I would love to hear from you on that. I hear Ecamm is pretty good for Mac users. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence. So have I considered doing a podcast? If so, why? If not, why? I have not. I just got too much on my plate right now. I don't know if I really would want to do podcasting. I really want to get good at making videos and then maybe repurposing those videos for podcasts. But did you guys know that you can actually take your current videos on your YouTube channel, make them a playlist, and then make that playlist a podcast? So I just did this 2 days ago, and I think Kevin Colby recently made a video on podcasting on YouTube. And essentially, I made this podcast. It's called Midlife and Monetized. Let me show you here. Come to my channel, and you can go into podcasts. So here is my podcast. It's called Midlife and Monetized. And these are all the episodes, which are essentially just videos that I've already published. So I said, okay, what do I want to make a podcast on? And these are all, like, you won't see any tutorials in here. Obviously, there's no screen shares that I put in this podcast because my sense of it is if people are listening to this podcast, they're listening to it audio only. So chose videos specifically that I think would translate better to an audio only audience. And what I'm hearing is that it's kind of cool to make a podcast because people who use YouTube Music can discover your podcast through YouTube Music. So it's just a whole nother way of getting additional reach and potentially additional listens and views for your videos. So I thought I would give it a shot. It's really, really low effort, low friction to set this up. So if you have videos on your channel already, and you think a lot of them fall within a kind of like a common theme or a common topic and they lend themselves well to audio only, you may want to consider making a podcast out of them. It's actually really simple to do. And Kevin Colby's video will show you how to do that. You can just go to his channel and find it. But no, I have not considered a podcast in the formal sense. I'll just probably repurpose my YouTube videos for that. And yes, I just did get OBS. I'm still trying to figure it out. It seems pretty cool. It seems like there's a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of options in there to explore, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. I haven't figured out how to integrate it into YouTube yet. So maybe on the next go, I'll give that a shot and see what comes of it. Yes, Justin, great suggestion. I was trying to do that. I may have missed some here and there. So Justin's comment to take his advice is when answering questions, be sure to read back the question so that those listening audio only have a sense of where the discussion is going. So Danya is saying, Ty, curious how you managed your time video filming in your early days. I have a lot going on, so it gets challenging. Just curious. That's a great question. I think this is a question that a lot of people struggle with because a lot of people start doing YouTube while they're still working a full-time job, while they have a family and a household to take care of. For my first 4 or 5 months of doing YouTube, I had a full-time job, and it sucked, to be quite honest. I didn't manage my time well. I ended up saying no to a lot of things, a lot of social obligations, a lot of like like date nights with my partner. That all went out the window. A lot of things at home didn't get taken care of like they probably should have. So it was a bit of a moment of sacrifice. And even now, even though I'm doing YouTube full time, it's still a challenge. So it's one of those things where I don't know if it gets easier necessarily, but when I was working a full time job, I would essentially just do videos outside of my working hours. So it'd be in the afternoons and the evenings, I'd be on the weekends. It would be anytime I could get time. And it was hard and the videos were not great. And I think what helped though was one, having a partner that gave me the space to do it. But then two, coming up with a content strategy that is not overwhelming. So if you're struggling to get videos posted, and say you want to post one video a week, but you can't meet that deadline because you just got so much other crap going on, then the question becomes how much effort and energy does your content style require of you? So I'll just give you another example of some clients that I've worked with who started cooking channels. And the setup and breakdown of doing a cooking video is pretty challenging. There's a lot of logistics, there's a lot of timing that has to go into it. And that can be hard to do. And it may be one of those things where you make a mistake that's irreversible and you have to like basically start over. So evaluate the complexity of the videos that you're making and how can you simplify them? How can you make them less complex? I'm lucky because I'm an educational channel and I get to do a lot of talking head videos. So I basically just pop the camera down and I start talking, and that ultimately is what my video turns into. Of course, I edit it after the fact and try to make it as engaging as possible, but the benefit of doing talking head is that there's just not a lot of logistics or a lot of friction in creating that style of video. So try to see how you can streamline and reduce friction. And sorry if my camera is bugging out. Can you guys still see me? Give me a thumbs up if the camera is still working. I may have to switch cameras here. Hold on. Blurry. Yeah. So I'm using my iPhone, you guys, and I'm using the continuity camera. So Um, it's not always perfect, but yeah. Sorry about the blurriness. I'm definitely gonna look at a new camera too because I'm tired of using my iPhone for kind of live streams and for video calls. But yeah, sorry, long-winded way of saying try to simplify your content creation process. Think of it as a way of like you're going to have to do this for months and months and months and potentially years. So is your the current way you're making videos sustainable for that long a period? And if the answer is no, then cut out the fluff, set timers for yourself on filming, set timers for yourself on editing, and just lock it in and get it done. And even if it's not perfect, even if it's not even close to perfect, I think it's early on, it's way better to get the volume on the platform. And then in time, your process will get much more efficient and much cleaner. And then you'll be able to get more done in a shorter period of time. And that's how you can manage it with your busy day to day. So hopefully that was helpful. Sorry about the video issues here. So Danya says, I have a membership, a channel, a full-time job, a relationship, an Etsy shop, um, and you're doing okay. Just trying to find ways to make my process and organizing more efficient. Yeah, that's the struggle, right? And it's an ongoing process. It's like a moving target. You're always trying to figure out how to be more efficient with the time that you have because our, time is a limited, finite resource. We can't make more of it, and it's all about trying to get the most bang for your buck. So if anyone's struggling, honestly, out there with time management, I might recommend reading the book Deep Work by Cal Newport. I just finished that book and I want to say it's about 10 years old and maybe 8 years old. And I think he's my age, actually. He's in his 40s. And he does a good job of talking through the importance of eliminating distractions. And of course, your 9 to 5 is not a distraction. You can't ignore that. Your family is not a distraction. You can't ignore them. Um, but there's a lot of other things in our lives that we take for granted that are distractions. Things like our phones, social media, obligations that we feel like we need to participate in, even though we're not really excited to do. So that might be a good read for some of you guys out there. It's not really that long. You can get through it pretty quickly, but it'll help kind of maybe shift mindset a little bit into thinking a little more strategically about prioritizing the things that are important to you and just understanding that some of the things that go into content creation, especially as it relates to writing and editing, these things require extended periods, in my view, of deep focus and deep work. So if you can't sit down for a 60-minute session and really think deeply about how you're going to write your script or what topics you want to talk about or really get in the zone in terms of editing, if you're constantly being pulled at and distracted and pinged and notified and you're checking all these different things, there's diminishing returns to all of that. The level of quality that you're going to be able to put in to the work is going to be greatly diminished versus if you can fixate and zone in on it. So I probably sound like a broken record, but I think it's really, really important to be able to block time in the day and to block out all the distractions and just give yourself a good 60-minute session or 90-minute session to just focus on one thing. And I think what you'll be surprised to know is you can actually get a lot done in 60 minutes. So I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get on the bike for 20 minutes. I take a shower and then I set a 90-minute timer to just do writing. So I'm journaling, I'm writing out things in my script, I'm rewriting titles, and I'm actually covering a lot of ground in that 90-minute session. And what's great is I put a timer on my computer so I can see how much time is left. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I only got 20 minutes left and I'm not even close to being done with my script. Well, guess what? I gotta hustle. I gotta make the next 20 minutes count and I gotta get a lot done in that 20 minutes. So it puts like some superficial pressure on yourself, which I think is a good thing in a way. And then it helps you to really remove all the distractions because I can so easily go into my email and go to my YouTube comments and go to my school DMs and see what's happening on, like, I don't know, YouTube news or whatever. But that would be a huge time sink because I really need to focus in on my writing and coming up with topics and titles. That's really the most important thing. Getting to comments, getting to DMs, that's all something you can do later on. I maintain. So hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, the timer advice. Yeah, so I think a lot of us too, we early on we want to make every video perfect. We want to make everything the best it possibly can be. And so we give ourselves as much leeway as possible. And what would normally be a 1 week video creation process can extend to 2 weeks. It can extend to 3 weeks because we want to do retakes, we want to re-edit. And I would say that's a mistake because just live with what you have, right? If you're giving yourself a week to do one video, at the end of that week, wrap it up, put a bow on it and post it. Even if it's imperfect, even if you're like, oh man, if I only had one more day, I could make this thing 20% better. Tough shit. Just post it anyway. That's my advice. And I know that might be a little heavy handed for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, you got to think about this thing in years. And I said in one of my videos, every video you post is one step along your 1 mile journey. So don't put in too much energy and effort and fixate on a single step. Take 5 steps, take 10 steps, and then look back and evaluate and then figure out what you can learn from those steps and then try to incorporate in your future videos. So Homework Dad is asking if I've had to deal with many hateful comments or negativity, and if so, how do you handle that? I haven't. Thankfully, I haven't had the displeasure of hearing from people who are just toxic and negative. I've had a few people disagree with me, but in constructive ways and mature ways. And I encourage that kind of disagreement because I certainly don't have all the answers. I'm just really sharing my opinion on a lot of things. Um, I've had some